You have to wake up. You wake up and say, I was sleeping and I had such an amazing dream. You realize yourself and then you wake up again physically. This is an astral dream. When you see your body, you can move instantly. You find yourself somewhere, you understand that you are sleeping at the moment, that your body is somewhere else out there, and you are in a real world where you realize yourself. That is an astral experience. The mental experience is even more subtle. You see everything around you, but you don't see yourself. You are present as consciousness. This is the mental plane. And in the causal world, time disappears. In the causal plane, in the spiritual plane, of course, it does not exist at all. Those who practice meditation or Kriya Nidra, being in a deep state of unity, go beyond the influence of the sphere of time. In this way, the process of decay or aging stops. It is important that we realize our multidimensionality. This is the quantum leap that everyone is talking about. Good afternoon, Imram. Today, we will be discussing the important and vast subject of sleep. Sleep affects everyone, as we spend a significant portion of our lives sleeping. It is crucial to understand why we sleep and how we can improve the quality of our sleep. What is a dream? Please explain in simple words if possible. Dreams are impressions you have had in unusual combinations that you see in your dreams. Basically, a dream has to do with the subconscious mind. The work of the subconscious mind in this whole mixture of conscious and unconscious aspects, the story, that's the dream. The brain works, the subconscious works. Are dreams a fantasy of the brain, a compilation of previous sensations, or a fall into another dimension? These are the fantasies of the brain, imagining previous impressions. This multidimensionality, complexity, and illogicality is, of course, due to the fact that everything is arranged in the subconscious mind because the conscious mind does not fully understand it here. That's why dreams are sometimes called delusions of the mind. You may agree with what is happening in a dream, but when you wake up, you realize that it cannot be. That is where logic comes in. But there is no logic in dreams, because the mind is not active as it is in ordinary life. There is another kind of sleep, when a person is not conscious of himself in the waking state and lives mechanically. That is waking sleep. There's another point here. There is sleep during sleep, dreaming. A person experiences events and sensations. So all the settled information comes to the surface from the subconsciousness so that it can discard unnecessary details. So the brain and subconscious cleanse themselves. The same thing happens during meditation. When a person sits down to practice, everything inside him starts boiling, burning. He says, I can't meditate because everything is on the surface. I can't concentrate. I have a lot of thoughts. Of course, when we do the cleansing, everything comes up. The same thing happens in sleep. When a person falls asleep to escape the influence of the matrix, they may experience dreams when entering and exiting sleep. During deep immersion, however, there is nothing but silence and peace. This is beyond the mind, beyond the subconscious, closer to the superconscious. But I'm talking now about all people in ordinary life. People may not be prepared to realize themselves at deep levels, which requires meditation. How many hours of sleep do we need? Are there any differences between men and women? There is no difference between men and women or people in general, because it is all individual. For example, there are people, women, whose energy works well. They need 5 to 6 hours of sleep. There are men who seem to be strong, but they need 7, 8, 9 hours, because they use a lot of energy. It depends on how good a person's conductivity is, how much of the energy they use in life they use correctly and adequately. If they use the energy that is given to them for life correctly, that is an individual thing. But on average, I think 6, 7, 8 hours is normal. A period in which a person has time to reset all the programs. If a person learns to relax their body through Kriya Nidra, they will only need 4 to 5 hours. Sleep is a form of self-healing. First, we know that during sleep, the nerve endings recharge and release the impressions they have accumulated during the day. We also know that during sleep, the soul or consciousness has to rise to a very high level to receive the energy of life, experiences, encounters with the spirit. This period is necessary, otherwise the person will need to sleep again. There are 1.5 to 2 hours of very good quality sleep. If a person sleeps through them, sometimes opening his eyes at the right time, when there are rhythms, the person does not want to sleep anymore. If he sleeps 15 to 20 minutes longer, a new phase of sleep begins. Then he has to sleep another phase. It turns out to be 3 or 4 hours. It all depends on which phase he gets up in. The brain recovers quickly, provided a person gets rid of tension. It is better to do Shavasana or Kriya Nidra for this. How do dreams affect our lives? Can nightmares damage your psyche or your health? Sometimes it affects the psyche. But usually people say it was a dream, calm down, it's all right, it's just a dream. However, there are times when a dream can be unpleasant or even a nightmare, and it can deeply affect a person's consciousness, causing fear. Someone once said, if you see that, it means something. So we find ourselves in the realm of superstition. Okay, even if it works that way, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person has that kind of karma, first of all. Secondly, even if they do, we can clear it up. It is believed that sharing bad dreams with others can dissipate the negative energy and prevent it from manifesting in real life. So bad dreams have to be told. On the other hand, good ones should be cherished. To influence the person? No, because it's already within them. When we see a dream, we see what is in our subconscious. If it's a nightmare, it means that there is aggression, there is information within a person. And the mind starts to build up old impressions in unexpected combinations. A person sees a dream where he is in some unpleasant circumstances, and something can happen to him. This fear is inscribed in a person to save them. Panic fear is a natural self-defense mechanism. It can cause unpleasant sensations, energies, states, experiences. It is often referred to as a nightmare, but in reality, it is just all an illusion, because it is just subconscious information. It has to be transformed. How? Through meditation. We can recall that feeling and the unpleasant dream. Sit in meditation, experience it again, and then let it go with a smile on our face, saying, all is the will of the Creator. Or we can transform the negative dream into a positive one through meditation and embrace it. Then that would be a conscious way of working with it. There are so many things in the subconscious, so it is very difficult to do that. It is better to use the scientific method of transformation, fully involving all levels of consciousness. This will speed up the result. If your dreams tend to be bad, is that indicative of how you're feeling? As I said, these are impressions that you have accumulated in your time. We see information, we watch television, or God forbid, something else. We accumulate this negative information, plus in the subconscious, there is still knowledge of who you were in the past. Who ate you, who you ate, figuratively speaking, at the level of animal evolution. Then it comes to the surface. If you start practicing, it rises. A person can have bad dreams. Or if you don't practice, you're just watching this life with all its various manifestations. This is also practice. People think that if they don't practice yoga or meditation, it means they're not under the influence. But that too is a practice. When you walk down the street, you are practicing proper perception of this world. But you are influenced by the energy information field of those who pass by, those who radiate, and so on. So we accumulate this information. And against the background of fear, the brain gives us interesting configurations of all this. There are different kinds of dreams. Prophetic dreams, when a person goes deep and there's a certain quality in them that is developed, they can see the future. There are dreams that you see based in the past. The simplest, most primitive form of perception by the consciousness is when you have lived today, and at night you see it in a dream in approximately this form. This indicates that the subconscious is trying to get rid of this information now. I want to tell people not to worry when they see a bad dream. It means that your subconscious mind has brought it to the surface and is slowly realizing it. If you wake up and you don't feel good about it, take 5 minutes, 3 minutes, at least 1 minute of your time to just rearrange it. Picture the scene in reverse in a positive way and affirm it in your mind. Say, I want it to be this way. I command it, let it be so. That's it. It goes into the subconscious. Do it persistently, and that's all it takes. Are our dreams personal, or are they some kind of field where we can communicate, but the other person doesn't have a memory of it? I always talk about how every atom is connected to every atom in this universe. All human beings are connected. Practically every seminar starts with the principle of unity. We are all connected. It doesn't matter how you feel about each other. Whether you love somebody, whether you are enemies or friends, we are all connected. Because there is a unified field, and that field is called God. That field is called the original source from which everything came into existence. The fact that we are distant from the original source is a problem of the mind. But we are not really distant. We are distant right here. The fact that we are far from each other, for example, you are sitting there now, I am sitting here, that is a problem of the mind. It evaluates the situation. But energetically, we are all connected. Karmically, we are all connected. That's why people are masters who achieve unity, who realize this principle of Advaita, the non-divinity of the whole world, don't treat anyone badly. If you dream of seeing friends or relatives, even if they are deceased, it may indicate a connection on a subtle plane. However, your brain on the physical plane may not be ready to receive such information. So it says, no, it cannot be true because I have not communicated with them. If you ask the person you saw in your dream if they felt anything, they may say, no, nothing. Because he is now speaking from the mind state, the personality state. But if he enters an altered state of consciousness, he will say, yes, I experienced some sensations. The memory is present at that level. So it is important for us to learn to go beyond this logical and limiting principles. Doing so will allow us to experience more. By the way, then you will stop thinking badly about each other. The principle of contagiousness states that when you think of something, you immediately make a connection with it. For example, when you remember someone, you establish a connection with that person. It is very important that you think of someone positively, because you make an instant connection. Why ruin the situation? Why ruin the relationship? Even if you think they are unaware of your thoughts, they can still sense them. Over time, this feeling will become more apparent. Then you'll feel like you're not being treated well because of your own behavior or thoughts. Telepathy is now being openly manifested. Notice in the morning when everyone is on their way to work, one person yawns and the whole bus starts yawning. Why does this happen? Why does everyone yawn when one person yawns? And they don't see that the person has yawned. He might even have covered his mouth, but the information is transmitted telepathically, because we all need to relax. Yawning is a form of relaxation that helps release tension and negative programs. And everyone starts yawning. because everyone feels comfortable. It's the same with thoughts. When you see someone in a dream, you have experienced communication on the subtle plane. However, when the person opens their eyes, the communication interrupts. This is because they have not developed a feeling of their astral or mental plane and only live a physical life. He says, they may say, "No, I don't know anything, I don't remember," as they simply do not recall the experience. What can you say, for example, when a person has had an interesting, vivid dream, but then opens his eyes, rolls over on the other side, and can't remember what he's just seen? Because the dream he has seen, which was vivid enough, has gone into the subconscious. So in order to understand what you have seen, you have to dive into the subconscious. Who is capable of doing so? Only those who meditate. Those who are engaged in self-development and refining their perception in this world, of this world, or of themselves first. Working with dreams is interesting. However, an even more universal one is working with the superconsciousness that unites everything. Your subconscious mind is not accessible in ordinary situations. By ascending higher and higher, you can gain control over your subconscious mind. There are the ordinary mind, the subconscious mind, and the supermind. The ordinary mind seeks to reach the supermind, which takes control of the subconscious mind. If one tries to reach the subconscious mind with the ordinary mind, they risk getting drowned in it, disappearing, forgetting themselves and simply losing the time of life. This process can take a long time, but some elements can be purified along the way if necessary. There are people who say they've never had a dream. Is it good or bad? It's actually good for relaxation. Some people say that they don't dream or cannot recall their dreams. The period of entering a deep state is brief for them. The person falls through, devoid of any dreams, and then immediately opens their eyes. This indicates that he immediately falls deeply into a state of, let's say, turiya. There is such a spiritual state in yoga. This state, turiya, is a deep presence of one's consciousness in a dreamless sleep. But it is a spiritual state. Generally in turiya, we are aware of it. It is savikalpa samadhi. Consciously. You disappear. You're sort of there and you're not there at the same time. If a person is unaware of this, they simply fall into a deep sleep where they cannot control or remember anything. Because firstly, there is no mind, and secondly, their supramental consciousness, their mind, their intelligence, cannot be controlled. It disappears. However, this state allows for deep relaxation and rest. You closed your eyes. 8 hours had passed. When you opened your eyes, it felt like you had just dozed off, but it's been 8 hours ago. Typically, one wakes up feeling refreshed, because you have relaxed well. And the dream you saw means that you are not deep yet. You are on the way in or out. You are not fully relaxed. Dreaming requires energy, so both are good. There are astral dreams when you are asleep, when your body is quite relaxed, but you are experiencing events in which you realize yourself. This is astral dreaming. When you see your body, you can move instantly. You find yourself somewhere, you understand that you are sleeping at the moment, that your body is somewhere else out there, and you are in a real world where you realize yourself. That is an astral experience. The mental experience is even more subtle. You see everything around you, but you don't see yourself. You are present as consciousness. This is the mental plane. Then you have to wake up. You wake up and say, "I was sleeping and I had such an amazing dream." You realize yourself and then you wake up again, physically. So it is 2 times. To wake up twice in one dream is to wake up from the mental plane to the astral plane, and then from the astral plane to the physical plane. This happens a lot with people. It is important that we realize our multidimensionality. This is the quantum leap that everyone is talking about. Perception of your multidimensionality, awareness of your multidimensionality. When we fall asleep consciously moving into the etheric astral plane, we realize that we are here now. Next, we move our assemblage point deeper. And we are in the mental plane, realizing that we have passed through these phases. We are in the mental plane, the world there is different, it changes. Unlike the astral plane, the mental plane has a slightly different world. The perception is different, because there is a different degree of perception which is connected with time. In the causal plane, time disappears completely. In the spiritual plane, of course, it does not exist at all. So if people meditate through sleep, through Kriya Nidra, which we have, it works quite effectively, and it is universal in the sense that you can go very deep into the magnetic plane. The magnetic plane, to create magnetism in the body, rejuvenating the body. It is a mental work, a mental plane, but it also allows you to go into the spiritual plane. From the spiritual plane to work on the mental, astral, and physical planes. Then the effect will be very strong because you are beyond time. Those who practice meditation or Kriya Nidra, being in a deep state of unity, escape the influence of the time sphere. In this way, the process of decaying or aging stops. This is why people who practice meditation become younger and healthier. Those people who have not yet entered meditation, but are struggling with their consciousness, are in contemplation of their unconscious reactions of the mind, thoughts, etc. This is just a phase. It has to be passed and purified, and you have to go into a state of stillness and peace. Then you'll begin to feel yourself. When you start to feel yourself, then meditation happens. By yourself, I mean not a person, but the higher self. Then the real form of meditation begins. This is where you can tell yourself later that you have done a good job with your body. Let's say there's a program of rejuvenation, of recovery. There's a program of rapid learning, of perception, where you are already allowing yourself to realize all the elements of this space as a single principle. That's how it works. It is always nice to have colorful and cheerful dreams. Is it possible to influence this in any way, to deliberately induce such dreams? Can it be colored in some way, right? Yes. You can, of course, if you have the habit of thinking of good things, of striving for the light, of speaking only good things and listening to only good things, and eat only good things. Then yes, the frequencies change. A person falls into the first chakra or resides in the first chakra, in the second chakra. What kind of dreams does he want to dream there? There is not really good, shall we say, experience. If a person enters even lower planes, spheres, these are already hellish worlds on the subtle plane. That's below the Muladhara chakra. It all depends on the attachment, on the level of consciousness of the person. There are cases where, let's say, a person outwardly seems strange, low frequency, but he always has vivid dreams. At that moment, his soul can somehow rise to high centers. So our task is to focus on the Ajna chakra as the principle where Babaji's throne is, the throne of the Creator himself. Right here, this is our consciousness. We do not work consciously here. This is where we work. If we raise our consciousness to the higher centers, at least to the heart, which is where all the prophets or all the masters have come, they talk about the heart, about perception, then it is always a heavenly state here. To ascend here, you have to remove all the offenses, transform them. Not just cut them off, but transform them. If we see, let's say, dirt, we have to awaken that dirt by transforming it into the form of a lotus flower, figuratively. The lotus flower is unique in that it grows out of dirt and always remains pure and beautiful. So our task here is to concentrate our attention as high as possible on the center of love, acceptance, and so on. This is where universal values come into play, striving for truth, for righteousness, for unconditional love, for peace, for tranquility, for non-violence. This is all related to spiritual practice. So dreams will change. You will be able to reach high by changing frequencies. Once you have a foothold there, you can consciously go down and help somebody there, because souls get stuck there. This is already a very high level of mastery, where you are allowed to visit different levels of consciousness in order to a certain extent. For example, Babaji the Immortal is one of the few who can consciously move into the future and into the past. Mahasiddhas can also do this. Mahasiddhas are those who are accomplished. They are complete. I mention this for those who don't know. Siddh means perfect from every point of view. Philosophically, especially spiritually, and physically. Perfect in all aspects and totally complete. This means that he has completed his work on himself. Such siddhis have the ability to move in space. Therefore, to change our future, we must change ourselves now. To change our past, we have to dive into it consciously, to recognize, to accept, to repent, and to change everything in the present. There is such work. At our seminar, remember, we dive into the future and into the past to build the present. And correction happens automatically, consciously. They have such an opportunity. That is why a dream is a good opportunity to transform old impressions of the past, if you realize yourself in it, of course. How to improve sleep quality? Does practice help? If a person is burdened with thoughts or subconsciousness, tense, unhappy with their life, or mistreating themselves in life, they will always have a heavy sleep, after which they are unlikely to feel normal. If a person eats improperly and gets up at the time when phlegm starts to be active, which is about 6 a.m., and he gets up after 6 a.m., then of course he gets up at the time when phlegm is accumulating. Instead of being active at that time, then the sleep will not be of high quality. Not that it won't be of good quality, but you may wake up feeling uncomfortable. And what do we have? You go to bed at 2 to 3, get up at 9 to 10, 12. That's it. The day is ruined. Who is to blame for this? There is Kriya Nidra. There are practices. There is, after all, elementary work. Loading of the body, where you come home after. You fall down, you relax. You are so tired that you can't even exert yourself. You are just so relaxed. I'm not talking about extremes where there is overstrain and then a person is tired and cannot relax. Because their processes already work differently. They should do Kriya Nidra, 42 Kriyas, energize the body and learn to enter the state of deep self-awareness by relaxing in sleep. If not, then at least just to relax. Then they will get enough sleep. If you sleep in an uncomfortable position, for example, you will find it difficult to relax. You have to turn the way your body wants you to. You roll over and fall asleep. To your right side, to your left side, to your stomach, etc. Until you do your twists and turns, you can't relax. Because the mind says, you have to do this and that, then you will relax. Again, the mind insists on it. Who knows how to switch off the mind so that the mind does not interfere with your sleep? The tension arises because of the mind. All these tensions that arise in the body are also caused by the mind. All the stress, all the depressive states, which are illusions, are also caused by the mind. In fact, it's all an illusion. Why? Because you just have to learn to relax without identifying with these problems. There comes a moment when you fall into a deep state where you are no longer in control of yourself as a person. The mind is completely shut down. Then you can rest. There is such a phase. Then even breathing stops. If no one hits you with a pillow to make you wake up and breathe. Because the one who is sleeping next to you, if there is one, might be frightened and say, your breathing has stopped, you were dead. In fact, the person cannot be touched at that moment, because finally, they are resting. And at that moment, the soul goes into very subtle spheres to meet the beloved, the spirit. After receiving impressions, it comes back. Then breathing slowly resumes. That is how the system works. It's a small death. a short one. But if you realize that, you are immortal.